Hello and welcome, guys. So today we continue talking about communication skills and in particular non-violent communication. This is a method that is really famous and has got a lot of attention recently. There are many masterclass seminars, groups and so on where you can study it. And in today's video, I'm gonna just give you very shortly, without any extra info that is unnecessary, very shortly the formula of nonviolent communication and also most common mistakes that people make then when they are trying to do this method. Okay, so let's begin. Nonviolent communication is a method that allows you to express what you don't like or what you want to get from another person, or share your needs and feelings without offending the other person and without causing them to get defensive or feel criticized and so on. The formula of nonviolent communication is pretty simple. First of all, you describe the situation, like when this or that happens, when, like, kind of describing the context. Second, you name your need or your value, like my need for safety is not met, or my need for attention is not met, or my need for respect is not met, and so on. So second, you name the need that you have. After that, you name your emotions, like in this situation my need for safety is not met, so I feel anxious. Okay, so you name your emotions. As you see, all of those are I statements. They don't really blame anyone else, they don't really point fingers or start like fault finding in the conflict. They kind of just describe your experiences in this conflict. After that, you need to make a request, what you would like to be done to meet your need, the one that is not met. And bear in mind that there are many different strategies in which you can meet the same need. So you may feel need for safety, but there are like 1,000 different strategies how to feel safe. So bear in mind that your request doesn't have to be only like one option. It can be different options, and you can also discuss it with the other person and find an option that is suitable for both of you. We discussed it more in detail in the previous communication skills video about how the same need can be met with many different strategies. So basically the formula goes like that. When you don't call me, when you promise to call me, I feel upset and sad and anxious because my need for safety in this relationship is not met. Could you please call me when you promise, or could we please make some other agreement to satisfy this need of mine? Or can you please give me a hug so that I feel better? This is the formula, you see. Or in conflict, let's say you say something, let's say a teenager is addressing their parents saying that, you know, when you control everything that I do and everywhere I go, my need for autonomy is not met and my need for personal space is not met, so I feel angry about this and I feel irritated. Can you please leave me some personal space and don't control everything and not control everything? Like, this is another option of request. Pay attention that your request should be as precise as possible. Like, instead of saying, like I said before, not control everything, you can say like, can you please not control my homework, not control where I'm going during daytime, not control which friend I'm communicating with, but you can control those and those and those things. So very precise, very exact, very concrete request. This is very useful exercise because it helps not only to convey what you want to another person, but actually to just understand what you want. Because many people, they feel unsatisfied in a relationship, they feel upset in a relationship because some of their needs are not satisfied, but at the same time they don't know how to satisfy them themselves. And at the same time they feel like 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 I want something, I don't know what. Like I want something, but no idea what it is that I want. And this just causes a lot of problems in a relationship. It makes you really upset and the other person really upset. So doing this formula really helps you, even if you just don't say it out loud, but just kind of do it in your own head or in your own diary. You can this way learn what you actually want, and you can also learn to make clear, precise requests. So the formula: first, state the context, like when you do not call, when you talk to me in a raised voice, when you don't let me choose something, when we don't go on holidays for a long time, when I cannot go out when I want to. Different kind of context. First, name that. Secondly, name the need that is not met. It can be need for autonomy, need for empathy, need for safety, need for approval, need for respect, and so on and so on and so on. After that, name your emotion. Like when my need for autonomy is not met, I feel irritated. When my need for safety is not met, I feel anxious. When my need for approval is not met, I feel ashamed. When my need for acceptance is not met, I feel what sad, let's say. So connect emotions with needs. And after that, fourth part is making a request, like saying that, could you please do that or do this? Okay, now let's talk about mistakes that people can make using this method. Mistake number one is not accepting a no. In nonviolent communication, it's very important that it's not like a formula that you use and it makes the other person kind of like obedient, No, in nonviolent communication, in communication in general, what is more important is not one particular agreement, it's the relationship. So it's much more important to take care of the relationship instead of just focusing on one particular thing. And in nonviolent communication, accepting a no is really, really important. And once you accept a no, you can actually feel safer in a relationship, because you know that if somebody says a yes, then it's truly a yes. Then they are not just saying it out of, just desire to comply or to please you or something like that. So saying a no should be granted opportunity for another person, and also it should be granted that the other person can say something like, yes, I understand your need for this and this and this are not met, but I also have my needs, and my needs require that, for example, I have alone time where I don't talk to anybody, so I cannot call you when you want me to every time, something like that, So rule number one is that we always accept a no, and we always accept that both people can have conflicting needs and conflicting desires and conflicting values, and we are not trying to find who is to blame or who is the worst person or something like that. Instead, we accept a no, and then when the other person says no, you can start negotiating for a yes. Like, for example, the other person doesn't want to go on holidays with you, but you want to spend more time with them, so you can negotiate how you can spend more time with them or something like that. So you state the need that you have, and you understand the need that the other person has, and then you try to figure out the strategy to meet both of your needs. And this is also really essential, leads us to number two. Nonviolent communication should be used not only towards your own emotions and needs, but also towards other people. Like in situation of conflict, it really helps when you ask questions and when you try to understand the need standing behind somebody's behavior or words. And of course, we can never know it for certain. We should ask the other person, and they might not tell us. But it's really normally useful when you just question the other person about their needs, and this helps you to see the whole situation from their perspective. This is rule number two. So we address this kind of perspective not only on ourselves but on other people as well. And we can use the same formula. Like, I hear that when I don't call you, your need for safety is not met, so you feel sad, or you feel upset, or you feel anxious, and so on. Rule number 3 is that you do not have to always use exactly this formula of nonviolent communication. I recommend you practice it for a while so that you get used to saying things in that way, and then it kind of stays with you, like ability to ride a bicycle or something, and you just kind of always see things in that way. Yes, so you can adapt this formula and make it sound more natural, or decide how you want it to sound in different situations. Sometimes you might decide not to make exact request to another person. You can just state that some of your needs is not met, and then you think together how to meet it. You can sometimes not state your need, but just say that when this or that happens, I feel anxious, and so on. So you can adapt depending on situation, on relationships, and on relationship that you are in, and so on and so on. So rule number 3, that we can adapt, but the essence of the formula should be like deep for you, deep, like one of your deep habits. Rule number 4 is that nonviolent communication, unfortunately, can be used for abusive behavior, can be used for actually violent reasons. In that case, you are kind of using nonviolent communication on the surface, but you're not actually taking deep the other person's feelings. You're not actually caring about them. You're not actually trying to solve the thing. You're just kind of using this nonviolent communication as as something superficial on the surface, while behind it you might have some kind of violent emotions and violent impulses behind it. Um, yes, so, or for example, you can use nonviolent communication trying to kind of look good in a conflict as if you're trying to solve it, while in reality you're not really trying to solve it. You just kind of trying to look good in that situation. So pay attention if your usage of nonviolent communication is genuine, or if it's just kind of like a mask that is hiding some kind of other other motives. Of course, it's better to use nonviolent communication when you are, instead of like shouting or fighting or something like that, but still sometimes it can be used for passive aggressive reasons. And yeah, and just because you use nonviolent communication doesn't mean that the other person has to say yes, as we already discussed. Yes, so more or less that's all the main rules, all the main things that I mentioned. And the last one probably that I'm going to mention is that using nonviolent communication, you should pay attention that you name your feelings and your needs, and not let any thoughts or any assumptions pretend to be feelings. Like, for example, saying that when you don't call me, I feel like you are cheating. This is not a feeling. This is an assumption. This is a thought. Because feelings are only like anger or shame or joy or happiness. Those are feelings. But feeling that someone is lying or cheating, it's not really a feeling. So make sure not to use those like thoughts that pretend to be feelings, so that you cannot dispute them. Instead, name only feelings and only your needs or values, because those you cannot really even argue with them. Okay, so I hope this video was useful for you, and I think that's the main idea. Now let's make several examples of nonviolent communication. Let's make an example nonviolent communication of you with your customer, and your customer is, let's say, calling you late or calling you out of work hours. And you can tell them that, for example, when you call me late in the evening, my need for rest and alone time is not met, so I feel, let's say, frustrated by it. so please can you just call me during work hours or just leave me a message instead, something like that. Of course you can adapt depending on your culture, where you live in which people you're talking to. In some cultures and in some societies this way of communication might not be perfect. Then another example, let's say you are partners and you want more attention from your partner. You can say something like, um, when we meet once per week, I feel like my need for attention is not met and I feel lonely. So can we please meet more often? And notice here, I'm not saying like when we meet rarely, because it's already like a judgment. Instead, I say once per week, because once per week can be rare for you, but often for another person. Let's do another example. Maybe you are on the opposite side and you want for some alone time, and you can say something like, when we meet every day, I feel like my need for personal space and for rest is not met, so I get irritated, I get tired, I feel exhausted. Can we please spend several days apart so I can restore my energy level? This is also an example of nonviolent communication. Um, Yes, so basically, I hope it's understandable now how to use it. Of course, when it's very high conflict and very emotional situation, and especially in close relationships, we can oftentimes have our attachment system activated so hard that our thinking, complicated thinking, turns off, and it's really difficult to do complex things like nonviolent communication. It's much more easier to just start blaming and start, you don't love me, you don't this and you don't that, and so on and so on. But what is important to understand here is that practice makes perfect, and in order to master nonviolent communication and use it in stressful circumstances when your attachment system is activated, first you need to practice it in your daily life. And will be our home task. For the next week, you will try to practice nonviolent communication as much as you can with communication with different people. You can also, if you don't have many like situations in which you can practice it, you can also watch maybe series, let's say, or a film, or maybe you are playing a game or something. So, and kind of try to invent what a certain character might say in the form of nonviolent communication. So our goal is to practice it as much as we can towards ourselves, towards other people, in any kind of social situation, conflict or not conflict. This can be really useful. And by the way, nonviolent communication can be used not only in conflicts, but also to share something that you like. Like, for example, when you touch me that way, oh, I feel excited because it because my need for, I don't know, physical touch is met. So you kind of can use this way to let other people know what you like as well. Yes, so home task is practicing it as much as you can using nonviolent communication. You can even find a friend or someone and decide to make a bit of a role play when they pretend to be in conflict with you, and then you discuss your conflict using nonviolent communication and make requests like this, and then maybe negotiate possible strategies. Yes, I hope it was understandable and useful for you. Please remember that the biggest thank you can give me is sharing my channel with your friends and family in social networks, social media, and so on and so on. And I hope to see you soon. Let me know how your nonviolent communication practice goes in the comments. And bye bye.